Oh my goodness, my video quality out here is really not that great, but I guess it doesn't have to be perfect. So here goes nothing. Dear 2025, I'm making this video to reflect on this year and everything I'd like to leave in 2025. Honestly, this has been without a doubt the most difficult and challenging year I've ever had in my life. It's been a crazy year for the world in general too. Like literally every time a major event would happen this year, I would literally go and write it down just to see how many of them there would be throughout the year. The year started off with the wildfires in LA, which was crazy. Y'all remember that? That was like right after New Year's last year when those wildfires were a thing. Then we had the TikTok ban, and then Trump reinstated it like 12 hours later. We had Trump being inaugurated. We had Chicken Jockey. That was funny for like no reason. I couldn't believe how funny that was. Chicken Jockey. We had the Diddy trial and the Epstein stuff. And we had the assassination of an American hero known as Charlie Kirk. Absolutely terrible. Then we had that one horrible YouTuber known as Hassan shocking his dog Kaya, which was also horrible. We had Trump ending wars. And then of course we had the absolutely insane 6-7 epidemic. And I'll admit, it started off being the most annoying thing I ever heard of, but then I started finding it so funny that I would join in on it whenever I heard someone say 6-7. But overall, there's fireworks going on right now, but overall there's a lot of changing going on in my life, and there's a lot of things I'd like to leave in 2025. It's been a hell of a year living on my own for the first time, making so many mistakes and dealing with so much hardship. Obviously, being a first-time homeowner at a young age is no walk in the park. I've had to inevitably deal with a lot of stressful situations that really tested my character, such as dealing with a convicted felon for a roommate, whom I never should have rented to, by the way. That to impulsively signing multiple contracts that I should have never signed, in which I had to jump through multiple hoops to opt out of before it was too late. Because if it was too late to opt out of those contracts, oh my goodness, it would have been really bad. And don't even get me started on the worrying in general. Like, owning a home is part of the American dream, but it comes with so many worries and responsibilities that have been very difficult to adapt to, especially where I come from. Some days I just want to crash out and opt out of all of it, but come on now. Come on now. Where is the character development in that? You know? Something else I'd like to leave in 2020. Oh, fireworks interrupted me. But something else I'd like to leave in 2025 is trying so hard for people who don't care. Now, I was utterly stabbed in the back by a former best friend whom I knew for years in 2025. He used to believe that he was a trans girl, but eventually he came to his senses and grew out of that belief, and during the years we were best friends, we shared we shared the same belief that a man cannot become a woman because he claims he is and believes he is. But one day out of the blue, he permanently cuts me off, all because I refuse to go along with the transgender ideology and call a man she. I even got death threats sent to me by his mother over this. All because I didn't follow along or agree with this ideology. But neither did... What on earth is that noise? But neither did my best friend at the time. He didn't follow along with that ideology either, until he changed his mind all of a sudden again and started believing that he was a woman again. This was one of the main motivating factors for me for changing the way that I choose friends. One of the main motivating factors for me for changing the way that I choose friends. It has helped me tremendously in motivating me to write down my morals and clearly define my core values in my life. Because it was so interesting to me how my former best friend at the time changed his mind about this one thing. So we went from agreeing on something to disagreeing on something. Therefore, he cuts me out of his life, cuts me off, and makes a permanent decision with a temporary emotion, all without any communication. All without any communication whatsoever, because we no longer agreed on this one thing, all because he kept flip-flopping back and forth on what he believed in, because he never had clearly defined beliefs and values in his life. I want to cease trying so hard for people who don't care or make any kind of mutual effort. I want to stop being there for people who would never be there for me during the hard times. This has been something I've tried to abide by for years, but then during times of weakness, I would still fall back into old habits of associating with the wrong sorts of people. But this time, I truly want to leave this in 2025. I have goals and plans and ambition for things I want to do, and anyone who doesn't care or support me in my life's journey doesn't need to be in my life. Anyone who couldn't be bothered to put in even half the effort that I put in doesn't need to be in there, doesn't need to be in my life. Just doesn't need to be there. They just don't need to be there. It's time to stop fighting for people who would never enter the battlefield for you. Stop waiting around for people because you think they might eventually change when they are never going to change. People will show you with their actions how little they care about you. Stop waiting around to see if they'll eventually care about you when they're never going to care about you the way you've cared about them. All of this needs to be left behind in 2025. Impulsiveness also needs to be left in 2025, whether it's related to driving, signing contracts, interviewing potential roommates, whatever the case may be. Every decision I make needs to have careful consideration, and impulsivity needs to be left behind here. Another thing that needs to be left in 2025 is allowing myself to be disrespected at work and at home. I spent way too long at a workplace this year where I never felt welcome. I was lied about, dehumanized, and underappreciated. And looking back on it, I never should have started working there in the first place. I would often hear people complain about their jobs, right? But I was not really able to fully relate to what they were saying until I had the experience myself. Being disrespected at home was a different story, as there were times this year where I wouldn't enforce my own rules in my own house because I wanted to avoid arguments and whatnot. That had to change, because if a roommate wanted to live here, they had to follow my rules. I had to get better with that. That's all there is to it. Procrastination also needs to be left in 2025. I can't stress this enough. Over the summer, oh my gosh, over the summer I got really good at distracting myself to avoid how overwhelming all of my new responsibilities had become. My motto needs to remain one thing at a time, to make everything I'm doing less stressful and easier to manage. Just one thing at a time. The self-doubt has to be left behind as well. I know that I'm more than capable of doing all of what I want to do and need to do when I'm at my best. But when I put things off and fall back into bad habits, and I lose my structure in my life and I don't follow my schedule, self-doubt seems to slowly creep back in and my self-esteem suffers. And I don't get anything done for a while because of it. All of that has to be left behind in 2025 as I bring better structure back into my life. And with all that being said, at the end of the day, I'm excited for the goals that I have to pursue, and I'm excited for the new year, 2026. I just have a lot of cleanup to do in preparation, and a rut that I'm slowly crawling back out of, I'd say. But you know what? I believe it's going to be a pretty good year. Regardless of all of this, it's going to be a pretty good year, I feel like. And that's all for now. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.